So over the next few minutes, I will share with you some of my experience working with a number of successful companies, both startups, but also large enterprise organizations in terms of how to build winning products. And also how to launch these to market faster while reducing the risk. And what we're going to see is that the delivery risk is not necessarily the most important or the most difficult one to overcome. In terms of the agenda, we're going to focus on the strategy component first, starting from the business, the product, and technology. Then talk about lean startup and how to address market fit. And then in terms of delivery excellence, we'll always touch on agile development. A few words about myself. I run Equilibrium, a product development agency based here in Vancouver. And throughout my career, I have a technical background. I had the opportunity to work for a number of product organizations. I started in Europe, working with Ubisoft, where I was the lead game developer. Then came to Canada and joined a company right now it's called McKesson Medical Imaging. Then was a development director at Electronic Arts and then a program manager at Microsoft. I also worked in the professional services space, and I had an opportunity working at Las Vegas to contribute to clients such as Nike and Starbucks and Nintendo. More and more often, we're seeing that for a large organization, for enterprise, software is actually the brand. So it becomes crucial for this organization to acquire software development capabilities. And this is no longer optional, but it's actually crucial to their success. It's the way for them to differentiate. So let's just look here briefly. Obviously, we have the Google, the Yahoo, the Facebook, the Twitter, and it's pretty obvious that software is the brand here. Think also about Amazon, eBay, Zappos, Uber. Think about some other organization here in Vancouver, Hootsuite, BuildDirect.com, Vision Critical, Shoe.com. So a lot of these organizations are based on software, and they have a number of touch points with the customers in the digital space. And software represents the way for them to differentiate themselves. I had the opportunity a number of years back to work for Starbucks as a client and actually to lead the strategy behind the Starbucks digital network. I also touched on the e-commerce and the Starbucks.com, the mothership. I'm providing Starbucks as an example of when I was talking about software as a brand, because obviously Starbucks is not in the business of selling software. However, they are doing a brilliant job to use software and digital space as a differentiator. Just to give you an example, what percentage of the Starbucks revenue do you think is coming from the mobile space?
Right.
Close. So that's about the percentage that's happening. It was actually about 15%, worth $1 billion in 2013. So as you probably know, their mobile application is a great way not only to deal with mobile payments, but to ensure continuity and insights, gather insights in terms of maintaining the relationship with their customers. So we're going to talk a bit about winning products, but winning products means a lot of things. And just before I continue, I want to get a sense a bit about the composition of the audience. Who in the room is representing business or product? And then technology. Okay. So when you're running a business, you want to make sure that the products that you put out are a continuity of your brand. They actually enhance your value proposition. To give an example, I used to work for Las Vegas, who used to be Canada's largest independent digital marketing agency. And at one point, we acquired X-Metal, and we also had content management system in-house. So on one hand, we are telling our customers that we will give you the best of breed solutions. At the same time, we were incentivized to provide licenses and sell our software to our clients. So you see in a situation like that, there's a bit of a conflict between what you represent and the image that you want to project out there to your customers and some of the way you organize your business. In terms of market fit, so in the past, to solve a business problem, you're looking for something that had a utilitarian solution. This is no longer sufficient. There are so many other brands who provide a solution. What differentiates is that creating that emotional connection, that user experience that makes you to stand out of the crowd. And as I was saying, software is also perceived as a way to get yourself recognized and ahead compared to your competitors. You also want to make sure that you have a healthy financial. Typically, launching a software product requires quite a bit of investment. It may take years, anywhere from ideation to concepting to basically releasing the minimal viable product and then releasing successful iteration of the product. So you want to be compensated. Sure, there are many instances in which it may take years until you launch your successful monetization strategy, but you still have to figure out from the business perspective how you're going to be, in the end, turning profitable. I'm a big fan of Formula One, so don't be surprised if you're going to see a number of references to Formula One. And I find it really interesting. This Formula One is right now a $1 billion global industry. And what's interesting about it is, you heard it even earlier, the need for speed. Speed is the new currency right now. So I was talking to some of our customers. They are playing in the financial derivative space. So for them to go and own a country or a market space, what happens, they have to work with 3 of the 5 biggest financial trading institutions in that particular region or country. And if they get this critical mass, the other 2 big players in the space will join the rest of the group. And guess what? Everybody else, the smaller players, will do whatever the big players are doing. So in order to achieve this success, for them, they have to be there first. In terms of Formula One, it's pretty obvious, right? What happens in order to win these races, you have to use software as one of your key differentiators. There are 150 sensors on a Formula One car that provide real-time feedback to the race engineers to let them know how to adjust the racing strategy, but also sending this information over 2 gigabits of data per race to the people in the factories, because for the next race will happen in a different country, on a different track, in a different temperature, they have to come up with totally new settings and new parts for the car. And they only have 2 weeks. That's kind of like a sprint of an iteration, except there are millions and millions of dollars that have to happen and to be spent during these 2 weeks in order to give them a chance to go and sit on the first row of when the race starts. So more and more often, because of all this access to information, comparisons, reviews, clients can put your business, your product side by side. They are in the driver's seat. So it is very important as a brand to control the message, to monitor the various touch points, the various interactions that the brand has with your customers. So here's kind of the structure of the talk. In terms of the life cycle, we'll start at the top. And we'll talk about strategy, as I said, from the business perspective, the product, and the technology. Then we'll talk about plotting the fastest path to success, for example, on a product. That's the product roadmap. And then deal with the development and have a very fast feedback loop, build, measure, and validate the learning. Not only from what you think your customers want, but actually putting this in front of actual customers and gathering that feedback and using that information to either stop, if basically fail fast, and then adjust, or to basically inform based on their feedback what the next iteration or the next release of a product should look like. So I'm going to go quickly through the business model and alignment. And I'm curious how many of you can actually really say that the people that are in the trenches, the development team, the IT department, are really in tune and aligned with your business goals. They truly understand how your business operates and works. And how are they looking to see, in addition to just write code and fix these user stories, to understand how their contributions leads to better products and how those better products leads to a successful winning business strategy. So in order to approach this ideation and business strategy, there is a very common framework called business model generation, and it plots these 9 boxes. These 9 boxes, you have a section that's focused on customers, customer relations, segments, and channels. There is the value proposition here in the middle, and here on the left side, there are the key partnership activities and resources that your business takes advantage of. And at the bottom, you have a combination between costs and revenue streams. The other thing that aligns companies to employees to your mission and vision is basically clarity and communication. What is the purpose of your organization? What is your vision? What is your big, hairy, audacious goals? So in several of the presentations we saw today, we saw how important in the space we are in, which is digital economy, is to use things as simple as sticky notes to collaborate and to ideate and to innovate. So 3M, their purpose is to solve problems innovatively. The other companies that were given an example were Kodak. And you're saying, where is Kodak? How did they evolve? So similarly, in this digital space, are we still stuck with stickies? What's next for a company who basically solves problem innovative? I'm actually using their application, which is called Post-it Plus. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. It's actually a great way to take advantage of those collaborative sessions and organize this information, digitize it, and basically organize it in digital format, especially working across multiple geographical locations. It's very convenient to sort of have this information. It's called Post-it Plus. No problem. Here's an example of somebody defining a vision. It's not a software mission, but it is a way to rally not only a team, a company, but the whole nation. It was inspirational. He didn't say how we're going to go about it, nor it has been done before to say we're just going to copy what the Japanese are doing, but they're not going to go on Saturn, they're going to go on the moon. It's something that hasn't been done before, and it was something that electrified a country and achieved a very hefty goal. Here's an example of what our company focus is, to basically become a digital agency. We call ourselves the BMW of the technology space, and be a $100 million organization by the year 2025. Who here is familiar with the concept of the BHAG, or Big, Hairy, Audacious Goals? So it was introduced by Jim Collins a number of years ago. It's if you're on your North Star, your most important goal, and something to inspire and rally the troops. In my previous company, it was another product company, one of the most very successful local company, rated as one of the top 10 best companies to work for in Canada. Their goal was to have the software installed in 10,000 customer locations. So the goal was 10,000 doors. And they said it's going to be achieved in 10 years. Actually took them, I don't know, 12 or 14. It was achieved while I was there. Right now there are like 16,000 different customer locations that are using the software. I was looking in terms of, as an executive, how to grow and aggressively scale up the organization for a framework that allows us to put together strategy, vision, purpose, mission, but also as an execution plan. For those of you that are familiar with the word harness, he has written a book a number of years ago called the Rockefeller Habits. Anybody heard about that? So one of the things that they're talking about is this discipline about having a heartbeat of your organization and how to connect your executives with daily scrums, the teams with daily, with weekly goals, with then having town hall meetings every month or every quarter. So for example, one of our clients that where we introduced the agile delivery practices, they have something, the heartbeat of the organization is 2 months. So every 2 months they have a town hall meeting in which all the executives are presenting 2 things. How did it do in the previous, they call it epoch, and then how are we doing and what are we supposed to be doing in the next 2 months. So while they may have a 3 years roadmap, there is a commitment from everybody, and that's in front of everybody in their company in terms of what the next 2 months will look like. In terms of an agile organization, we run Equilibrium using 1-week sprints. So as an entire organization, every week we're doing a planning and a retrospective in which departments like HR and marketing and sales, but also the various projects happening in delivery, they get together, share best practices, what's working, didn't work, and then plan for the next week. So, as I was saying, software right now is being perceived as the differentiation. So I used to work for a company, it used to be called ALI Technology, was sold, right now it's called McKesson Medical Imaging. And the way it used to work is you had the big players, GE, PAX, Alpha, Fuji, was selling the $3 million MRI or CT scanner, and then they would throw in some software for free. And ALI used to be this small company who was very dynamic and was able to put stuff to production really quickly. So we turned software as being the differentiator. And right now, a lot of this organization, while they're innovating in the hardware, we're able right now to take a 1500 image full body scan in just 15 minutes. So this level of innovation in the hardware industry, think about it, what it means, and how you used to read, radiologists used to read those images by printing films and then reading them on the light boxes. Imagine 1500 images, and then we have 3 such studies to look at them side by side. How would that work in today's world? It doesn't. So software solved that problem. These images are inherently digital. I actually did my PhD in dealing with software visual reading, and they basically totally transformed how the business works. And again, software became a differentiator for these big enterprise organizations. The other thing that we're hearing is that several of our clients have aggressive goals. Some of them, they're looking to double up their revenues in 3 years. Some of these are pretty big companies. They used to do $30 million, then they did $100 million, and now they're doing $250 million of revenue per year. And what they know is that whatever took us here will not take us there. And what they have is table stakes. They need to figure out what will fuel that hockey curve. And they are looking for things such as digital transformation to make that difference. And what digital transformation can do, a few things. One is it can connect with your customers and give you some customers insights that allows to continue to enhance and optimize your products and offering, or it will create brand new opportunities. We started the discussion about Internet of Things. A few weeks ago, I was in Seattle attending a conference. There are probably CEOs from maybe $15 billion plus companies that were discussing how the Internet of Things will probably disrupt and change the way we do business. Here's an example from the non-software industry where software is playing a key role. A few years back, 2 years back, I was in the Valley and I was attending a conference, Lean Startup, every Greece, and they had 3 executives from GE who represent the world's largest Lean Startup organization. And they were actually dealing with fridges, not even things related to software directly. Here's nothing that GE is doing. They changed their business I'm going to give you an example from the business of aeronautics. They have these airplane engines that GE is making, and then they used to sell them to various companies. And now they changed the program to say, you know what, we are the best at making sure those engines fly really well, and this uptime for our engines is going to be very high. So why don't you focus on flying your planes, and we'll make sure that our engines are working perfectly. So right now they're gathering terabits of data from those engines, and then going for more reactive, sending people all over the place on a plane or an engine breaks to, I'm going to get this information, and based on how all the other hundreds of engines are performing, I can predict in advance what kind of maintenance I have to do, when to deploy it on my time, not whenever it's broken. Make sure that you as the client are happy, because magically the plane is always up and the engine is never down. So they totally transform the business through the use of Internet of Things. I can give you many other examples. For example, Microsoft is working with a company that has 50,000 elevators that's monitoring all over the world, and they use this information from these devices, from these elevators, to again make sure that they understand what are the root causes of problems, how often they break, why, and when do they send parts or repairs. Coca-Cola. They have these Coca-Cola machines in the campuses, and they're monitoring and they get this information about who's buying from what. And they manage, for example, to figure out that in the campus, there is a huge surge in terms of product use just before a game. So guess what? They are really good in terms of advertising and making sure that you don't want those machines to be out just on one of these big games. And all of this is because they have all these connected devices. And what is happening in one maybe center of the university, you know how to extrapolate that what's going to happen through the entire campus. So we talk about business strategy. That has to be reflected into your product strategy. So as a product manager, you have a number of things that we have to focus on. Focus on the market. Obviously started with the vision. Understand the positioning. How are you going to be different from anybody else? If you're a smaller player and you go into space and you're going to swim with the shark, why would they pay attention to you? Then understand what are the customer challenges. Look for a white space. Understand what is the delta between what the customer needs are and what is being offered today. How are the competitors doing? Where can I be coming in, and from what angle, and why am I different? What do I stand for? That's different from, think about the shelf life right now. You have so many things you're bombarded with and marketing messages. Why would people come in and buy my product? And the person who makes a lot of the decision is wearing a number of hats. That's the product manager. And he has a strategic position, looking at the vision and the leadership. Obviously, he has to understand the market. If I sell 500, 1,000 copies, is it because I got lucky? I use everybody in Vancouver to be a customer, or do I have millions more that I can sell? Obviously, he's going to have to figure out the ROI. What I'm going to sell. Am I going to sell Windows that used to be sold in the past? Every 4 or 5 years, you get a new version of Windows. You need to wait until the Service Pack 3 is being launched before you're actually there to sort of switch to that. Or are you just going to go to this idea of software as a service? And basically, you don't even know when you upgrade to the new version of Google Chrome. And we're seeing, for example, the Adobe, the Microsoft, they are offering their software more and more often as a service as opposed to into these big releases. Yeah. A very important role for the product manager is to have empathy with the customers and to understand where do they live, what are the various touch points between the brand and the customers. Here's an example of a customer journey for a cell phone purchase experience. And on purpose, this is unreadable because there is no point in reading all the 50 different touch points in there. But in terms of the legend, what you need to know is red is not good. So red is a point in the interaction with the customer that leads to frustration, second thoughts. So it's a situation where it's likely for the customer to basically interrupt the journey and say, you know what, no. So as a product owner, you need to understand what is happening today and how you can take these negative experiences and turn them into blue positive experiences. The size of one of these, if you want, dots or circles, it's indicative of the duration, how much in this customer life cycle is being affected by this negative emotion of the customer, and how big is this particular problem for your customers. Here's another example of an engagement model for a client in real estate. They sell houses, basically. So you can see how they go in as a customer looking to buy my house. I go from daring to dream to living the dream. And here on the left side, we call this the 10 demandments. Basically, as a customer, I have expectations. As I said at the beginning, they are in the driver's seat. This is what I expect you to do. I want you to have a voice. I want to be able to tell myself. I want you to recognize and reward me. If I spend so much time talking about me and giving this aside, you better treat me like you know me. The difference between a vitamin and a painkiller, if you have a pain, all you want to do is to get a painkiller and get it to go away. And you're not very concerned about price because it just hurts. With the vitamin, you may see, you know what, sure, it's good, but maybe right now I'm too busy, or the price is not right. So ideally, you want to focus on solving pains for your customers that are very tangible and for which they are looking to invest, and the cost is not necessarily the main thing that they're going to use in terms of assessing, am I going to make a purchase or not. Also looking into how are you, again, different. If you're offering a premium solution, what makes you stand out the crowd? What is table stakes versus what are things that are actually making you different? And one of the things that can make it different is product design. And we're seeing this even in the most common, if you go to, let's say, a Walmart or a superstore, you can see like even the garbage cans right now, they can be made of alloy or really nice design. Think about the thermostat, right? And the $1 billion purchase by Google. What makes this design really interesting is in digital products design, you borrow from all the other disciplines. You borrow from physical. I was just giving you the example of Nest and the thermostat, right? You borrow from architecture, interior design, and you borrow from the graphic design. And all these skills combined are leading to engaging, emotionally pleasing things that create good habits for your customers. So talk about products, business strategy, and then product strategy. So you have a product roadmap. Now you're figuring out, okay, so how do I turn technology into an enabler? What are the things that I need to keep in mind? So obviously what you do is look into the requirements. Those can be functional or non-functional. And then you try to figure out, on one hand, kind of what's the technology stack, what kind of models do I need to get in order to build these features. Then you have to figure out for the non-functional requirements, what do I do about compliance, privacy of data, security, redundancy, scalability. There is no point in building something that can support 10,000 users when it may take you 10 years to get there. Don't over-engineer. So one thing to consider at the beginning is obviously to look into, if you put a best-of-breed solution, which one is the best that works for your business? And figure that out. What you need to define is a scorecard, a waiting list that allows you to assess the various players, and then you give them a score. The legend here says excellent, good, limited, and minimal. So the example provided me here is basically turning this into a weighting score. Some of these metrics are more important than others, and in the end you're looking into, when you draw the line, which one of these vendors are actually the best fit for you. Another important decision you need to make is build versus buy. And how do you make this decision? It's obviously unique to each business, but what we saw oftentimes, a couple of things that are being taken into consideration. So one is the impact versus complexity. Obviously, the bigger the impact that particular module or feature has, the more likely are you to sort of try to internalize that knowledge and that IP. Similarly, in terms of the decision not to actually build an in-house but to buy it, it's complexity risk. If it's something that's really difficult to build, it requires a lot of domain expertise. You probably don't want to be putting your team to ramp up on a brand new technology and domain and learn this skill set. You're more likely to buy. So I used to work, as I said, for a digital agency, and what most digital agencies are aspiring is to become the agency of record. We have one-stop shop solution for your all your digital needs. Well, that doesn't happen anymore. Actually, several of our customers, being Lululemon and being Starbucks, they have in-house teams right now. Actually, one of my former colleagues is right now working for Salesforce, and he runs a 150 people digital agency inside Salesforce. So with that in mind, what happens for people in the services industries? Well, what we saw organization is, while certain skill set they brought in-house, they are still looking to get domain expertise and skill set that's complementary to their team. For example, an organization may say, my AP is in X, and they obviously want to make sure that that secret sauce, that knowledge stays in-house. However, there are many other things that are successful or needed for their business, and they have no knowledge about that. Do they want to basically diversify and try to build things that are not in their sweet spot? Or do they, in terms of reducing risk, but also the speed to market, would they rather go and work with organizations that have expertise in that area? So for example, work with customers that are in the financial services and they needed Salesforce as the cloud platform to put solution out to their clients in 3 months. And that is in a context in which typically it takes them 9 months to deliver something to production. So rather than trying to sort of hire and bring that knowledge in-house, they are more likely to reach out to organizations who already possess that skill set. Once you define this list of features for your product, there is a risk that you're making some business or product hypothesis that may be incorrect. So you may bring in people that are very smart from the technical perspective, that usability experts and gurus and people who have domain expertise, but all they're doing is they're making some assumptions. And until the rubber hits the road and you actually get your end customers using the product, you don't know if you have the correct hypothesis. So people such as Eric Ries and his lean startup methodology are basically advocating to reduce the risk by minimizing this loop of build, measure, and learn. Trying to go to market with the minimal amount of functionality that either validates or invalidates a particular hypothesis. Adding more features and building $1 million worth of functionality, I'm not going to transfer something which is nothing but a solution in search of a problem into a successful product. So you might as well stop early on if that proves to be a dead end. Here's a concept about how to build an MVP. What is interesting in this approach is, in a traditional approach, is you basically either outsource or build in-house a bunch of components, and it may take you months or years until you get all these into one garage, putting on an assembly line, and actually put them together, and then press the start button, and hopefully you got lucky and it actually works. But more importantly, if it actually works, then getting it in front of your customers, is that what they want? And would they be willing to pay that whatever price you have for this, or there are many other cars out there that already do this cheaper and better? What is different here, the essence is that you got nothing that delivers business value until all these elements are put together. And then you actually evaluate if your target audience is actually enjoying this particular vehicle. Here, however, you can make experiments in which you can get people to move from A to B pretty early on. If you have a problem getting that bike to work, you're probably not in the right space building cars. So basically, what this is saying is, rather than building these parts who provide no value while I disassemble, you are much better positioned to hypothesize and demonstrate I'm able to build the most simple vehicle who can transport a person from A to B, and then validate, hey kids, would you be interested in riding this scooter or this motorcycle? And demonstrate that, you get something on wheels that can take you from A to B, and then you can add an engine, and then you can add, a transmission, and so on. So this is an opportunity to experiment. And if you have, as I say, you're going to dead end, you might as well fail fast, because it's really expensive and demotivating for you to spend time, resources, and energy only to go into the wrong direction. So you can also use data and insights to basically drive your decisions and your product roadmap and strategy. So to give you an example, software, you can instrument that software so you can get an idea about who's actually using the software, how often, why, what features, and also to get an indication, for example, of a heat map. If you look into the complaints from your customers, are they really grouped together? Are they related to a set of features or functionality on your product? Is it lack of knowledge? They didn't realize. Imagine Microsoft Word. It's probably got 500 buttons and features. Our person probably uses most often 10 or so, right? So when I keep adding more buttons, and it seems from a developer perspective, it's pretty cool to do this and so on. Not as a user, I will never get to that. That's not really adding value for me. It's costly, and it has to maintain and deploy, but does it really add value for you? So I was giving that example about data. So what you see here is there are basically 5 engineers. The contrast here is not very, very good, but they are actually here. Each one of these engineers is in front of a couple of monitors. And basically they are getting the information that's coming from the race, not only to adjust the race strategy. For example, how hot are the tires? How close is this driver driving from the car ahead? Do I get enough cooling? What's going to happen to my fuel consumption? What's going to happen to my brakes? So what you heard is that in the past, the big companies could rely on, have size, numbers, and that's sufficient. I used to work, as I said, for electronic arts, and when something like PS2, PS3 came along, there are only very few companies who can actually fill 6 gigabits of data and stadiums and characters on a CD like that. However, as you can see right now, successful companies coming in and creating one of these really cool mobile applications, they don't have $1 million in terms of development budgets. And they can eat your lunch if you're not changing the way you do your business. And I gave the example from large organizations like Microsoft and GE, how they want to leverage their advantage, the economy of scale, the fulfillment, but also bring in an entrepreneurial perspective. So basically organizing their teams like startups. Yes, the cool thing is they have the mothership behind them to support them and then to finance them, but they're also forcing them to act as startups. So Microsoft, for example, one of my colleagues in the business intelligence space was showing me how Microsoft brought in to lead that space, brought in a former startup executive who had several successful startups. And he was pretty amazed how he had 200 super smart engineers, but it took them basically 2 years to put out a new version of the product. So like, that's not how I was successful with running my company in startup. I didn't have 200 engineers. So how is it possible that it takes forever for your group to put out new releases? And one thing that he did is he cut the severed ties with the other departments in Microsoft, because they were these touch points, this interaction, this integration, were the one that also were holding them back. Because they were moving at a totally different pace, but the other departments in the organization were not keeping up. So he tried to create, as I said, a startup environment and mentality for his own team. So actionable metrics versus vanity metrics. So in terms of metrics, what do you guys use right now to assess how your product is doing? Let me give you an example of actionable metrics versus vanity metrics. We have a saying in professional services: revenue is a vanity, profit is a reality, and cash is king. So somebody may say, look, I made $1 million, $10 million worth of revenue, and he's running an agency, and basically a lot of the money is just going on the other door to pay for ads and to make movies. So then when we look at the end of the day, after 1 year and $10 million of revenue, looks like a pretty big amount. When you draw the line, looking into, so how much money you make? Not a lot. The other thing for your startup, as I said, in order to grow, you need cash to hire new people, to open new offices, to train. So for startups, I was talking to some colleagues in Gastown, and they were talking about, look, I think I'm doing really well. User adoption is really high. We're getting about 1,000 new users per month. Okay, so that's all? Is that basically your dashboard? Yeah, it should look pretty good for investors and for... What's your churn? Oh, we're losing about 900 per month. Okay. What's your cost of acquisition? Well, it's about $10 per user. Okay. How do you monetize? Well, actually still freeware. Okay, so when you start looking at these metrics, what is the, for example, lifetime value of a customer, is looking into not only how many users you have, but how many actually pay, and how many actually stay there, because a lot of them were dormant. So what was happening is there was a promotion, here's a coupon for $10, $20, and then people would use that free coupon, and that's the only interaction you have with the brand. So while you look interested in terms of showing to your investor, oh, we basically got hundreds of thousands of users in the first year. How many of those are paying right now? How many of those are still with you? And you're looking into the difference between actionable metrics versus business metrics that are just vanity. So actionable metrics are metrics that allows you to make business decisions fast and informed. So the ingredients to get to market quickly, starting on the right side, you need to be very diligent about prioritizing. What you don't build is as important as things that you focus on building. The other one is keeping up with the technology. Not only dealing with technical debt, and there was a number of articles. Marty Kagan is one of the product owners that used to be working for eBay, and he was saying that the company almost collapsed at one point because they had so much technical debt. They couldn't scale, they couldn't add any more features until they actually stopped everything and dealt with that huge debt they had. But also is moving from older technologies, somebody was saying Fortran and COBOL and so on, to the latest technologies who, again, not only can make you more nimble, but also give you that edge, that X factor. The other thing in order for the organization to grow and to increase the velocity is you need to find the right hires and build these high-performing teams. And you know what? In Vancouver, it's a very competitive space. I was looking maybe a year or so ago, and I think Amazon had like 1,000 positions posted for Vancouver. You have Microsoft, you got Facebook, So more and more organizations are competing for same talent. So you have to be really diligent in terms of saying, we're talking to one of the poster kids, fast-growing companies here in Vancouver, and the CTO was saying, in the last 18 months, my team has increased 300%. Is that good or is that bad? Well, it's great that you managed to find that talent, because one of our other clients, they had a mandate 2 years ago to hire 70 people, and it took them 3 years to hire 40 people. But on the other hand, there's a curse because their revenue did not increase 200%. So one of the pressures that we have, what's my return on investment? Am I adding bodies, or is that really helping me to get a good ROI on my investment? So when we're talking about market fit, I was at the Lean Startup conference 2 years ago, and this is the CEO of Zipcar. She's a repeat entrepreneur. She probably had 3 successful exits at least. Zipcar was one of the first companies that basically prototype or piloted that model about car sharing. So right now everybody knows about it, but not when she started her company. And she was giving an example on, hey, here's how we started and how we assessed. Again, something that hasn't been done before is actually a viable business model. So she started by buying 3 vehicles and basically placing them in 3 different locations on the city. And you know kind of how this car sharing model works. You go to a website, you register, you put your profile, your credit card, you have a mobile application that tells you where the cars are located. You can reserve the car, you can go in the front of the car, you can use the mobile app to unlock the car. So all that stuff didn't exist, okay? Because it requires millions of dollars and years to build. And she wanted to know, everybody owns their car. Who's nuts to go share the same car? So basically what she did is, this so-called mobile app was connected to the cloud and unlocking the car. That was vaporware. The cars were never locked, because she knew how to unlock the car and do all that stuff. Not she spent millions of dollars. So she wanted to see if people will actually buy. So one of the cars, basically, people will come in and drive the car and then go to her house and just put the keys under the mat. And you know what? It kind of took off, and then the 3 Beatles became 10 Beatles. And then she had maybe 50, and then she said to the investor, guys, this is serious. And here's the proof from the customers that they are willing to do this. So they started to get the millions of dollars and build the infrastructure and the cloud and deployments and the scalability and all that good stuff in there. But first, you need to figure out, is this a valid business model? And how do I build the minimum amount of functionality to demonstrate this is valid or not? At the same conference, there was another company that was giving example. They do micro lendings. So basically, somebody has this idea, I need $20,000 to whatever, launch my business and so on, and then you get $20 or $100 from several people and you kind of achieve your goal. It's almost kind of precursors to crowdfunding. And basically they put up this website and they wanted to validate, is this going to work? Am I going to have enough people who can actually make this investment? Am I going to have enough projects that are So it's supposed to have this business model and this calculation to assess the product visibility and everything else. They all have a facade in which there are some project listed. And when somebody said, I want to donate or I wanted basically to create this project, they hire 3 co-ops and they will pick up the phone and those will be people who are writing the name down, and that was the high tech behind the whole website. And then the phone started to ring and the 3 co-ops were not sufficient, so they hired 10 co-ops. When they got to 20, they figured out this is serious. So we need to start to actually replace this facade with an actual database and with an actual workflow and put some business logic in place and be able to scale this business. So all this started by, again, looking at the business value and validating that this is something that customer will be interested in purchasing. as opposed to let's just $1 million of cloud communications and servers and then figure out how he wants to use them. I'm going to share with you a couple of examples of some of the customers we work with and kind of some of the pain points that they come up with. And one example is it's a company that came to us with maybe probably 6 or 8 months of internal planning and design and strategy. Said like, we'll have everything figured out. We just need somebody to help us build this product and take us to market really fast. And when we started to build this and ask some question, we figured out, oh, okay, that's interesting. I never thought about this. And the so-called all that strategy and planning that and design that took place, they were very biased because they've been in that industry for 20 years, but they didn't really have that expertise on building technology products because they were not a technology company. They were in a totally different space. And they do, however, understood that this software would be the one that will help them, really, the mandate is to double revenue in 3 years. So we started working on them, and then we started to build this iteratively. And I can tell you this, the software we built and they have right now is not the software they asked for 8 months ago. It's different. It's got, first of all, it's got fewer features, but in terms of the user experience, it is a much refined, much more business value driven solution that we put together working with the client closely. Not throw it over the wall, I'm going to come back in 6 months and look at this and tell you how much I don't like it. It was actually staying there day in, day out, and working together and prioritizing features together. So right now, the mandate is to actually put this in front of the customers. We build an MVP. We know it's not everything they wanted to do. At the same time, we recommended to go run this beta testing with actual end users because despite the PhDs and the people with the smarts, both in technology and user experience, we're just making some hypotheses and actually we go with this and put this in front of customers. We don't know if that's going to be successful or not. And the phase 2, turning this MVP into an actual real product, has to be informed by what actually end users are saying. Our actually disappointing in this project is that we wanted to sort of have this in front of the customers as early as June, and right now, as you can see, we're getting close to November, and that hasn't been put yet into in front of the customers. Another example of how to put all these pieces together. So, company in the financial services space, they were looking for several things. One is to demonstrate that they are as innovative as the big players in the space. And they wanted to provide an application that provided this type of innovative capabilities, basically being able to take a snapshot of a receipt and then automatically catalog it as being a business expense of a meal, and then attach that particular image with your banking account. So you can expense it, or you could, for example, have that receipt in case you have to use warranty 2 years from now if you bought a vacuum cleaner. And in terms of how we approach this was on one hand, we are focusing on product market fit to understand how would the customer really react to this application. If technical would be possible, which we didn't know it was, then was that something that we perceive as a value add? So we ran 3 iterations, and each iteration, basically, at the end of each iteration, we look into some technical goals. For example, our ability to scan this and accurately identify what kind of vendor base, was it a Costco, was it a purchase from, let's say, the gas station, or was it a meal that you need to expense for work, and how to assign this expense when your banking statement comes at the end of the month. Am I going to be figuring out what the accuracy based, what kind of payment, or which of my transaction would I need to associate with this? And the other thing was to figure out, as a customer, am I happy or not? So we ran user focus groups, and we saw at the beginning people are not really very happy, saying, yeah, you know what, seems interesting, but it's pretty clunky. And we were a little bit disappointed because it was pretty obvious to us it was really well done, but not when we put it in front of the customers. But using their feedback, and I don't know what to do next. Well, you see that there's a big green button over there at the top. You should probably try pressing that. It was pretty obvious for us, but obviously not for the customer. So we were the one that were obviously wrong. So we took this feedback, and then we went from, yeah, I'm not sure, to like, I would totally switch my van provider if you guys had this ready nowadays. So we also, as I was saying, was decreasing the risk with market fit, but also from the technology perspective, we started with some libraries and did some OCR and some business logic in there. And in the beginning, the results were really poor. We're looking at what was kind of cutting edge at that point in time. The solution, there was a company that had the solution that we were the most happy with. It took about 2 days to get the response back on a scan. So we kind of started the problem, why is it taking so long? It cannot be like the server's ID. And we realized that if the image wasn't clear enough, what would happen is they will send this to overseas, I know somewhere in India, where actual human beings would go and look at the receipt and then put every field and information, type it out. So it wasn't an actual machine anymore. It was basically ultimate risk for them to come up with a solution in the context in which the OCR algorithm was failing. So one of the things that I started at the beginning, and I want to kind of use it as the takeaway message from this presentation, is that speed is really a big competitive advantage. You heard that from Philip at the beginning. Don't think just about how to incrementally increase efficiency of your team, but think about every month that you push out a release, how much is that costing you? A concrete example, I had a customer who said, if I get this cloud solution out of the door, I will double my revenue for the rest of the year. So we did that simple math. If you got $10 million and you really can double your revenue, so what are we talking about? Every month it's costing you over $1 million. I never thought about this. So when you're looking into spending another $100,000 or $250,000 in terms of that investment to push that out, then you have to figure out what's the impact. What is my competition going to do if I'm going to be 6 months late waiting for that product to get to market? So I'm going to go quickly through this. In terms of agile development, the sweet spot I think here is for emerging projects, not a project where there is a high level of confidence or repetibility, and also projects in which the requirements are likely to change over time. You have a vague idea about what the end solution is, and that idea is almost acting like a fog of war. As you learn more about from the project and knowledge is generated, you have a better idea which way you want to be going. Obviously, there are some misconceptions about agile is not the unicorn, faster, cheaper. So you have to sort of maintain some expectation with your team, with the key stakeholders about what agile can and cannot do. One of the things in terms of that's of interest is this concept of just enough and just in time. And if you think about the concept of what Dell was doing compared to everybody else, so imagine what the Best Buy would do, buy a bunch of laptops, pay a premium price for the processors at that point in time, and then keep them on the shelf for a number of months, and then sell them out. So versus Dell, what we'll do is first take the order, get your money in credit card today, then look into what they can buy from that money. Obviously, the cost of the processors, the computers at that point in time has significantly decreased from 3 months ago when Best Buy had bought those devices. And they actually had the money in the bank at that point of that purchase. So the message here is certain decision about what to buy and how, try to delay it as much as possible, as opposed to doing this big upfront planning at the beginning and try to be compliant to a plan that may be obsolete by the time you print it. Knowledge. One of the key artifacts that's coming out from each iteration is actually knowledge. And it's knowledge that helps you reduce friction and enable your team to achieve more, but it is also knowledge about the business. So basically, by leveraging that information, like truly taking advantage of those retrospectives, you're not only ending up with a better product, but you can also increase efficiency of your team. The question was today about, okay, so agile is being there, done that. I don't think so. That's not what we see in the customers. Yes, most people have heard about that. They know how to spell it. But we're seeing more and more this agile but. Yes, we're doing agile, but we don't have a product owner, but we don't do retrospective, we have no velocities, and our daily scrum is happening once a week. Okay? So, in terms of this hybrid method, so the message here is it's kind of similar to when you get the driving license. When you have that instructor next to you, you better play exactly by the rules. Don't try to do the California rolling stop, because you're going to be sacked. So before you tell your team, start changing the way you're doing Agile and Scrum and Kanban. Why don't you first learn it to do it properly, and then get to the level in which you are so good, and you've done it so many times and so predictably, that you start messing up with the basic concept and start to innovate and make it unique to you. So, a few things before I wrap up. Figure out who are your customers and create that validated learning really quickly. Look at the touch points with your brand, between your customers and your brand. Figure out what delivers the most value, the highest value scenarios, end-to-end user experience, not one-time features that don't just build and hope they will come. Do assess if this is going to get you market fit. And to do so, come up with a very specific hypothesis. As a user, I'm going to be willing to get a car, which I don't own, and I don't know if it's been insured or not, and pick it up from one location, drop it out to another location. And then figure out what is the minimum viable product I need to build to measure that. Or to validate, hey, that's false. $1 million of features into that is not going to get me something that's actually going to be successful. Might as well know about this sooner. They make this cycle, build, measure, learn really quick. Don't focus on vanity metrics, just to make you look good. Focus on something that actually truly can drive your business and provide meaningful information and enable you to make business decisions. Then also, this is the knowledge economy. What are you doing in terms of capturing that knowledge, storing that knowledge, and disseminating that knowledge, and making it available just in time for your team? By applying these practices, what we see our customers, what we manage to help them to do is to get overall a better winning product, which will translate into increased return on their investment and faster times to market. So the 3 tools that we use and I describe it here: on the business side, the business model generation; on the product market fit, the lean startup; and obviously the agile development in terms of delivery excellence. Here's a few books that I get inspired by and I'm going to recommend. And this concludes my presentation. Thank you.